The Chicago Bears, they recently dodged a major bullet. What's up? My name is Sean. This is Sports Talk Bears. That's Dante back there. Hey, if you haven't joined our community, like and subscribe. But let's get into this. If any of you have not done this at this point, please do yourself a favor and watch the new show on Roku, the NFL Draft. The pick is in. This brings to light not only what we should be glad did not happen, but also likely what would not have happened as a result. I mean, this is just an important development. So let's go with what did not happen first. NFL Films, they bring audiences behind the scenes of the 2024 NFL Draft. And crews, they are like embedded in the draft rooms of teams like the Bears, the Commanders, the Cardinals, the Rams. It just gave a great insight into what really happened during the draft. And we should be so incredibly glad that another team made a huge mistake. The Chicago Bears general manager, Ryan Poles, he showcased his strategic prowess, I would say, by presenting a remarkably generous offer to the Falcons management. And it really set the scene for a potential game changer, I would say. The Bears were open to trading a future fourth to the Falcons to move from 9th to 8th to secure our very own Rome Odunze. And this also feels additionally noteworthy after Atlanta. They lost a future fifth this week for tampering. Neither of these things reflect his great management skills regarding Atlanta's GM. And watching the show, pulls a scene making a call to Atlanta Falcons GM Terry Fontenot about trading a potential fourth-round selection to move up one spot from number 9 to number 8. Would you make a move back one spot? Is that in the cards? That's Poles talking to Fontenot, like a future fourth-round pick. We did the same thing with Philly last year. Shockingly and thankfully, Fontenot said no. The Bears had Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze, as you know, as their number 1 and number 2 players overall on their board. And Poles was willing to trade up to make it happen. Neighbors, he went earlier to the Giants. The Titans, they made their pick of Latham. And the entire Bears war room was just going crazy with anxiety, hoping that Atlanta did not go with Odunze. And Poles was willing to ensure that that did not happen. Considering that no defensive players have been taken in the top 7 picks, Poles, he was wisely making a calculated move to select their target, Rome Odunze. What's puzzling about all this? Fontenot, he shows little to no interest in making the slightest move down. The Falcons stayed put and drafted Odunze's former teammate and quarterback, Michael Penix Jr. at number 8, despite just signing veteran Kirk Cousins to a massive contract in free agency in April. I mean, Fontenot knew the Bears would not draft Penix Jr. after taking Williams. After thinking about this, there aren't really many valid reasons why Atlanta would not trade back a spot and essentially take a free fourth rounder. I mean, this is far-fetched, but is it possible that they may have thought that the Bears would unload the pick to another quarterback-needy team like the Raiders? They are strongly connected to the Washington quarterback leading up to the draft. I mean, that's doubtful, right? Any experienced GM could have done a couple things to protect against this, and this makes me doubt Fontenot's competence. I'm glad that we have the GM that we have. This is stuff that used to happen to us. Fontenot could have mitigated these risks. He could have sought assurance from Poles that the Bears wouldn't trade the pick. That would have been a really good choice. He could have just waited long enough to seal the deal that the Bears, they wouldn't have had time to flip the number 8 before the Falcons were on the clock at 9. I mean, just a couple thoughts on that. Another thing, did they fear the narrative being that Penix, he wasn't their guy because they traded down before drafting him? I mean, I think both of these theories are a stretch. It's hard to comprehend why the Falcons wouldn't welcome an opportunity to acquire a future mid-round pick while still drafting their guy Penix at 9th overall. Regardless, the Bears got their guy. It worked out well for the Bears. We still got Odunze. Later used a similar future mid-round selection to move up for Kansas edge Austin Booker. Poles dodged a major bullet here. But let's talk about the second phase of this. What might have happened if this transaction with Atlanta would have happened? I think the Bears may have turned away from making the move for Austin Booker. And the reasons behind that are, I mean, the Bears ended up using a future fourth rounder to trade back into the fifth round and select defensive end Austin Booker the next day. That's what we use to flip the pick with Buffalo. Let's be realistic. I mean, if a team really wants a player, they're going to do what needs to be done to get him, right? But in this case, a fourth rounder, that was what was used by the Bears to flip to Buffalo in order to gain the capital to get defensive end Austin Booker. He's looking like a player who's going to develop into a great starter on the right side. It may have been a pretty tough decision, though, to flip another fourth for him when already expending one to get Odunze. Man, this draft just fell perfectly. Also, the fact that we used draft capital on Torrey Taylor, although he's going to be a huge difference maker in the kicking game, I fully believe that. He's already becoming a bit of a cult hero here. That just might not look very good at this point if the defensive end position had not been addressed in the draft as well. I mean, the Bears absolutely loved Booker and also felt the rest of the league was way too low on him, and moving a full round in the full round in the draft to get him, it appears to be worth it. I really agree on this. Booker's going to be an absolute stud. The team might have still traded like a valuable asset to get Booker on the roster, but flipping a second, fourth round pick in the same draft, that would have been a tougher decision for Chicago's war room after just doing it for Odunze. And as it happened out, the Bears liked Booker enough, felt the rest of the league once again were way too low on him, so that caused them to swap next year's fourth for this last year's fifth to expend on this pass rusher out of Kansas. And this is a quote from Dan Brugler of The Athletic, wrote in April. The Bears used a 2025 fourth round pick to trade back into this draft and scoop up Booker. And I didn't go back to my source material here. You guys go to the story if you want to. It's withthefirstpick.com. It's kind of a cool source, and read up on this story for yourselves. My apologies, I didn't put that up at the beginning. So Dan Brugler continued to say, although he isn't ready for a meaningful role as a rookie, Booker has a promising pass rush savvy to be a steal when we look back at the selection in 2 or 3 years. I mean, my thoughts exactly. If Booker ends up being an absolute stud, I don't think anyone's going to care that we spent that draft capital to get him. And just a little bit on Booker. I mean, I think he's going to see meaningful snaps in the defensive rotation as early as this year. I think he's going to end up being a factor. I think he has a chance to even challenge for the starting job in camp if things all level out the way that they think they're going to be. I mean, right now, we have starter Montez Sweat. We have DeMarcus Walker on the other side, but he's not really blowing anybody's skirt up. He's not really developing as he should. And I think it's going to be a contest between Booker and Walker. And it's going to be one of a handful of position battles, I would say, worth watching over the summer. And kind of looking at Walker, and I'll probably do a story on this moving forward. He hasn't really been a serviceable starting edge. He certainly wasn't last year. He'll have a chance to carve out a key role for himself, and I'm talking about Austin Booker. Booker is just toolsy. He's lengthy. He's a good athletic edge rusher. He's got a quick first step, an absolutely high motor. He fits perfectly into this hits principle that Coach Flus coaches. And I think it's going to be an exciting battle in training camp. And I think at the very least mid-season, you're going to have Booker starting to take over this right end spot. And we're going to move forward being so grateful that this underrated deal did not happen. And also really happy that this deal didn't happen, because we might not have gained our future right end stud in Austin Booker out of Kansas. And I fully believe that. You guys let me know what you think. This is going to be an exciting training camp, mostly for the defense, because we're going to see some players that really need to develop. And I think they are put in such good hands with Coach Washington. I mean, he's our defensive coordinator. You know that Flus is going to call the plays. I think really he is there to just glue this defense together. And there's not a better defensive line coach than Coach Eric Washington. And I'm so glad that we grabbed him. He's going to squeeze every ounce of talent out of these guys. And I cannot wait to see how Austin Booker and Gervon Dexter develop very, very quickly under his tutelage. You guys bear down. It's been a great offseason, and I'll talk to you soon.